Welcome back to another episode of the Isn't That Rich podcast. Today we are back with another update on Ashley's new home that she's building. And so she's made a lot of headway since the last time we talked. And I'm excited to hear about all the updates she has for us.
Yes, our last episode was in May talking about this. And that episode, I think I ended off with I was about to get my construction loan figured out, and then I had kind of lined up a few contractors, but nothing had happened yet, and I was still kind of waiting. So
yeah, you hadn't broken ground. You hadn't done anything like that yet.
And I have broken ground.
You have?
Yes.
And you've got your loan in place.
I've got my loan in place, and thankfully, we brought my lender on today, Miss Polianna Benedict, and she has helped me tremendously. So today she's going to be walking us through the construction loan process and how all that works and everything that you need for it. And it actually hasn't been too terrible because she's the best.
Well, thank you.
So welcome, Polly.
Hello.
We're so glad you're here.
I am too.
Are
this
you?
is exciting, yeah.
Well, we've been asking
This is
Polly.
my first podcast.
Polly to come on for a while, and she finally agreed because I feel like this is going to be such a good dynamic between the two of you going through this process.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people need to hear what it's like on both ends, both the lender and actually what it's like to get the loan. So
Right. It's been a big learning curve. I've had to learn a lot about just what it means to get a construction loan and what certain phrases mean and insurance and all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
So we're gonna talk about all that today.
But before we really get into like the work you've done together, I want to talk about just the market in general, Polly, because there's a lot that has been going on. So do you have any kind of market update? Like, are you still making loans right now?
I am still making loans. Right now, speaking of construction, I probably have about 6 construction loans going at the time. So people are still building. They are still purchasing. The market is low for houses for people to buy.
Yeah.
But when there's one on the market, it usually gets sold pretty quick. So.
Yeah. I know that we have like 3 or 4 on our road that are for sale. And this is the first time I've seen a lot of product just on our road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you said there are still a lot of people building.
Yes.
And that's good news.
Yeah,
Even with
that is
high
good
interest
news.
rates.
So let's get into your building. Let's talk about it. So Ashley, what was the process like? What was the first step in getting your construction loan? Because last time we talked, you were just kind of even looking on the application online. And so how did you go about the application process?
Well, I talked to Polly a lot, and I know I work at the bank, so thankfully I was able to just to pop in her office and ask her 5 million questions before I even got started with the loan process. But I just want to say for people that are gonna maybe start the home building process or buying process, it's okay to just like make an appointment with a lender and just ask them 5 million questions, because it's really confusing for the normal people. They have lots of acronyms and terms and certain things that you have to do. And it's free just to sit down and ask questions.
Yeah, and it's always a good thing to do that. You do learn a lot on what you're going to need for the loan.
Yeah.
So it's good to do that.
Yes. So what was your question?
Just what was what were your first steps for the application process? So the first step was like sitting down with your lender, I guess. And I know you were looking at doing this earlier. Like I know you had thought about building like last fall, and now you kind of, put that off for a little bit, and now you revisited that. And so tell us about that process. Like what was that like for you?
Well, so I would say before I started the construction process specifically, I knew that to get my loan started for Polly, I had to have numbers. I had to have bids in, and we can get more into that in a second. But on my end, I was kind of checking out what it would cost to build a home and if I could do it. And so before, I didn't want to jump into that and then start a loan, and then because stuff costs money.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that too. And I kind of talked a little bit about like appraisals and all that. So you start spending money kind of
Immediately.
Yeah. So you need to really make a decision, first of all, whether you're going to do it or not.
Yeah, whether it's feasible.
So that's more so the first step.
Okay.
Yes. So the first thing I had to do was apply, right?
That's right. You have to come in, you need to get pre-approved to see what is affordable for you, and then we'll go over everything that you need to get your construction loan started, which is going to be the bids from your contractor. If you live in the country and you need septic tank, bid for that, driveway, power, water, whatever it takes to get in that home, we need an estimate for.
So when on my application, I didn't have to fill any of that out, did I? But
No.
the application's very general for all types of loans, correct?
Correct.
And then, but you click, I think I had to click on it that I was doing construction.
Yes, you do.
Okay. So after that, then what happened? What did I have to give you or talk to you
Then
about?
you came in and you got all your bids.
That's right.
Once you bring in all your bids and we have everything, there are forms. We do have a construction packet form that explains a lot to our customers, and we'll tell them what they need, gives the
Kind of like the breakdown of everything.
Yeah, and if it's on a slab, if it's a block foundation, what
there
type
were-
of home you're building.
Oh, there were so many questions. And like, I'm general contractor. So half this stuff, I was like, I don't know how much electricity I need, Polly. And what I think is interesting about lenders, I think people think you're very like white collar and you don't know anything. You're like, you were helping me with so much stuff. You're like, you don't need that. You don't need it on this. You need this. Or I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't put it there. Like, you've gone through so many construction processes that like you understand what it's like to build a home.
Right.
Ultimately.
And you kind of know the process more than most people would.
Right.
I mean, what step comes when? Because I was thinking with Ashley too, and some of the things that she's going through, I'm like, well, why am I ordering windows right now when I haven't even broken ground?
Yeah.
But in reality, it takes so much longer for some of those things to have happen. And especially with the bids, it's like, I don't know how much it's going to cost for this. How can I even bring that up? So the
Right.
bid process had to have taken a lot of time for you.
yeah.
And so,
And I think we talked about this on the last podcast, but I had gotten a lot of individual bids from contractors that I was going to use, but then I ended up just getting a turnkey bid, and it was a little bit easier just to give to Polly. Maybe you can explain to everybody what a turnkey
yeah,
bid
what
is.
is a turnkey
A
bid?
turnkey bid is when you have your own contractor and they will do most of all the work. There may be some things you might want to cut out of it that you might be able to do yourself, which will come off of that cost. And it just helps you with your cost.
Yeah.
So it gives you a better estimate of
Yeah.
what generally this
Right.
bill
Because
could
I had a
cost
bunch
you.
of, I had a spreadsheet full of different prices and contractors, but there were some things like I forgot that I didn't put in there, like termite treatment. That I
yeah.
just had to get. Like I didn't, because I'm not a contractor, so I didn't realize that wasn't going to be my cost. So I gave that to Polly, and she was like, "We're going to use this to book the appraisal." And so is that the next step?
So,
Yes.
so your application is in now, and you've
And I got pre-approved, so she had to pull my credit.
Yes.
but the bids had to come in first before you could get pre-approved. Is that right or no?
No.
Okay, so
The
explain
bids,
that.
once you've been pre-approved and we know your amount, and you already owned your land, so that makes a difference because that's going to increase the value of your appraisal because you own your land. We send all your bids and the specs of your house that you're building to the appraiser. Appraisal can take 3 to 4 weeks for us to get that back. And we also will order your title work during that time too. So we're getting everything in hopefully at around the same time.
Explain what
So we
title
can
work
close.
is.
Title work is title commitment that we order from the title insurance companies, usually locally here in Marion. They go through and they check your land, make sure nobody's got a lien or there's something out there that nobody knew about that was a lien on the land.
Yeah, because in order for the bank to be able to make a new loan, they want to make sure that you own that title free and clear.
Correct.
And that's what the title company does.
Correct.
Is
So
do that research.
They do like a check
Yes.
back.
Yes.
Okay.
Wow. Very interesting.
Yeah.
And that costs money, right?
It does.
Title, and I don't remember how much mine was, but it goes into my closing costs, or I can't remember if you can either pay for it, right, or
No, actually, we require now that the customer pays their closing cost, and then they have 15% go toward the build.
we'll break that down here soon.
Yeah.
It's a little confusing with the numbers. Okay, so I sent my house plan in. Okay, so let's just go
Yeah.
like this. I applied. I was approved. I was pre-approved.
Pre-approved.
To get this construction loan. They were like, Ashley has good credit.
You know where you work.
She makes money. She can pay us back. And then I gave you my house plan and then my bid for my stuff. And then you sent that on to an appraiser.
I did.
And that costs money. And then they send that back to you. And hopefully we want the appraised value of the new construction to be way higher, or at least higher than the house is actually going to cost to build.
And it will because you owned your land. So your land also has value that will go into that appraisal.
Okay.
So since you own your land, we were able to loan 85% of the appraised value.
What if I didn't own my land?
If you didn't own your land, you would need 15% of the purchase price of the land and 15% of the purchase of the construction cost.
Okay. Okay.
So what do you mean by you would need 15? So that means that I have to make a payment, or I would have to
No,
have
have
that
to have
much
cash.
cash on
You
hand?
have to have that much cash.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's just showing that I have some skin in the game. Like I have
Correct.
some money that if I didn't pay this loan,
Yeah, that your money's in there too.
it's essentially putting it up for collateral, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
and normally you will use your money first before we do an advance.
Okay.
And in advance, that's so hard to say, is when you give me cash
Correct. Yeah.
to then use to pay people to build my house.
So because a loan for a construction loan, it works differently. And can you explain maybe a little bit of a difference between a regular loan that you would get for a home, like say I'm just going to go buy a house that's already built, and then a construction loan, because that works differently. It's not like you just get payments when you buy it. It's just one lump sum. But when it's a construction loan, you get that advance. So what can you explain the advance a little bit better?
You're buying a house. So, I mean, it's just going to be a closed loan. Once it's complete, you're just going to start making payments.
Okay.
On a construction loan, we will advance payments, and we like to do it in percentages. So like your first advance would be 15% of the cost of your home. Before we will do another advance, we want lien waivers for everything that you've spent out of the construction money.
Okay, and we'll get into that. So
Yeah, okay.
maybe let's back up a little bit. So I got my appraisal ordered, and that came in, and then it was higher than what it's going to cost for me to actually build it, which is a good thing because I can only borrow 85% of the appraised value. So for easy numbers, if the house costs, if the house
100,000.
appraised for $100,000, I'm able to borrow $85,000 from the bank.
Correct.
Alrighty.
Yes.
So that's easy numbers. Yeah. All right, Polly. So after I got my appraisal in and my title work in and all that jazz, what did you need from me next to get the loan started?
Insurance. And I
Yeah.
try to tell everybody up front, be shopping for insurance because it's very important. We don't wait till the last minute because insurance company needs some time to get that binder ready for you.
And what did I have to ask the insurance people for? I had to ask them for a building something. So I needed home insurance, but also I had
Builder's risk.
builder's risk with it. But yeah, I'm glad you told me to shop for insurance because someone sent us a quote and I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I'll just go with that. And Polly was like, no, you won't.
Yeah, shop around.
And so I'm glad I had her to bounce that stuff off because I don't know how much I've never owned a home.
Yeah.
I don't understand how much stuff costs. And if it seemed good to me, maybe it was good enough. But thank God I was talking to her. She was like, you need to get another quote.
Yeah.
And I'm
So
glad
how many
I did.
quotes did you end up getting? Did you get
got-
like 3, 2?
I
what
got
did you
3.
Do? Okay.
And at that point, I was kind of able to see like price range and, but I mean, you need to look through the policies because
You do.
they cover different things and up to certain amounts. And this is what you can do too. And everybody knows this, I think, with insurance. You can either pay for it in full and get a little bit of a discount, or you can escrow it. It's called escrow it into your payments.
You
right?
can't do that until you purchase your home and it's going permanent
So
financing.
did I have to pay for it in full then?
You did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I paid for it
1
in
year
full.
up front.
1
Yeah.
year upfront insurance.
Okay,
That's
so
kind of a
that's-
chunk of change.
So with construction, you have to do your insurance 1 year up front. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And with a lot of purchases, it's the same way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
If you don't escrow, a lot of people want to pay monthly.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are escrowing, you do pay a full year up front.
Okay. Yeah, because sometimes it's easier to pay that smaller payment, so people would rather pay monthly, but it's actually in the long run cheaper to pay.
One lump sum.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get a little bit of a discount then.
And I always say this, I do this with my car insurance. I just, whatever let's say it's $1,000, well, let's say it's $1,200 for 12 months. I just auto transfer $100 to a separate bank account every month. And then I just am like, write my check out of that account.
It's already there for you.
Yeah. But so it's like I'm paying it monthly in doing that, but I get the lump sum rate.
Yeah. So you kind of are saving for it in that
Yeah.
way.
But the insurance, yeah, that's a big one. I didn't know I had to do that. And Polly popped in my office. She's like, where's your home insurance? And I'm like, what else do I have to buy? You know, I'm like, and so then at this point, I'm like, oh my gosh, do I even want to do this? Like, I don't want to buy home insurance. Like, it's not fun to purchase those things. But you're going to need it if something happens. And you have to have builder's risk.
Builder's risk, yeah.
And that
some
covers-
companies won't write those. They'll want to actually write a insurance binder. So if you're lucky enough to have an insurance company that will write that builder's risk, that's great.
Yeah.
That's good.
And that covers me for if like anything pretty much happens during the construction phase. So if lightning strikes my lumber and
Yeah.
it burns to the ground.
Or something gets stolen.
Oh.
Of course, your contractors should have some insurance for that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And that's another good thing is when you're looking for contractors, that's a good thing to look for, that they have that type of insurance for if something were to get stolen or happen during the building process. That's good too.
Yeah. A lot of the contractors I've talked to or I've asked around, they'll be like, yeah, I use him. He's insured. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
What does that mean?
Yeah. So I've learned a lot about insurance through this. So where were we?
So you have to have insurance before you can close.
Before
and
she can
they'll
close
let
my
you do that
construction.
one. So is there anything else that she had to get? So you got your insurance and then what happened?
Then I ordered her documents.
Okay. And who do you order those through? Is it just like,
It's our operations department.
Okay, so
for her
then-
loan documents. On all our mortgage loans, you have to sign a closing disclosure 3 days prior to closing.
okay.
So we got that ordered, and Ashley signed that.
And I think Polly sent it to me through email. And of course, I ignored it, thought it was fraud. So she's beating down my door saying, did you sign your closing documents? I'm like, no one sent it to me. And she's like, yes, we did. We're on the
She's
ball.
like, I'm CC'd on this email,
Yeah.
Ashley. I know you got it.
So I'm like, God, I don't know. I just, during this process, I think it's funny because if I didn't work at the bank, I just think about how much we've communicated through it and how many times I've like sat in your office and been like, what does this mean? What do I do next? And you're popping in my office saying, get me this, get me this. So it's been a lot of back and forth. So definitely pick somebody that you can like ask a lot of questions and just banter with and know that they're on your side to help you with everything and get the best like rates for you and just everything. So yeah, what else did I have to give you at this point in time? I had to give you
Well,
some personal stuff.
oh yeah, in the beginning, you're going to give me your pay stubs, your W-2s,
How
your
many?
tax returns. We like to have, if you're paid biweekly, we like to have 3. If you're paid monthly, we like to have 4. So as long as it covers 30 days of income, that works.
Okay.
Last 2 years W-2s and last 2 years tax returns.
And that stuff's kind of stressful to find too. But thankfully, Polly knew, because we worked together, she knew where I could find my W-2.
Right.
I'm like on the phone with HR. I'm like, what's a W-2? Where do I get this? Polly needs it. So, yeah. Lots of documents.
Yeah, lots of
Nothing too
documents.
hard to find though. It was
No.
all pretty easy, and you were really good at just saying, "Get me this. This is where you find it."
Yeah.
And I would be like, "Do you have to have it in an email form? Like, do you have to have it PDF? Can I just print it off?" She's like, "Just slap it on my desk. It's fine.
Well,
I'll scan it
here's
in."
something that Polly told me as a tip before. So a lot of people, when they're submitting their pay stubs or whatever, they see that there's only typing on one page, but the page will say page 1 of 2. You need to have all pages. And I know
Yes.
that's something that you've run into. You're like, oh, this customer wants this loan and I'm still waiting on the full document.
Yeah.
So make sure you send everything.
And that is another thing that I didn't mention is the bank statements. 2 months complete bank statements. And that means the back page, even if it's the page where you balance your checkbook, we want it.
Yeah.
So, and that shows your money that you've got to put into it as well. So 2 months complete bank statements.
So you need your bank statements.
Didn't you pull?
I pulled yours.
You
yeah.
pulled mine because I work here,
Yeah.
so I didn't have to get that too.
Right.
Okay.
Well, and this is another thing. So when you're pulling bank statements, do you have to have all bank statements, even if I bank with like 5 different
Yes.
banks? So you would have to have every single.
Whatever you're listing as an asset, we have to have 2 months complete bank statements.
And I know a lot of people are like, well, they don't need to know all that I've spent, so
Yeah.
they'll try to black things
Yeah.
out.
Don't black
Do not
out.
mess with your bank
I
statements.
didn't know that.
Yes, I know. They're like, I don't want her to
People do
see that
that?
I spent
They do.
60, however many $100 on whatever.
Yeah.
I don't want that my husband to know I went to Home Goods, right? Yeah. Black it out. No, we need to know everything.
And they
so
will
don't mess
even
with those.
black out account number, and you can't do that either.
We need to know everything.
Really?
No blackouts on them. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Polly told me that once, and I was like, "Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Don't touch those. Just give every single page, no matter what, of your bank
Yeah.
statements."
So if you're planning on building a home the next 2 months, maybe watch your spending. Watch what you're spending money on so you don't have to black anything out.
I love it. Okay, so you've got all your documents, you've got your appraisal, you've gotten it back, and
We've gotten our title work.
title work's done. What's next?
Then that's when we order documents to get her closing disclosure to sign 3 days prior to the actual closing.
And that takes a minute. It's like it takes a minute for it to go to operations, and they have a lot of work to do. They evaluate all that
underwriting.
stuff.
Yeah.
So in that process, I know people get anxious. And so you're kind of just like managing their, don't worry, we've done everything on our end. We're just waiting.
Yeah. We like to give operations 24 hours to 48 hours in advance to work on a closing disclosure where we're not sending it down and saying, hey, we want that today.
Right.
Because that rushes them and you don't know what their backlog is, what they're working on.
Yeah, they could have, like you said, I'm working on 6 loans right
Yeah.
now. They could be doing this for 6 loans to close on, well, what did you say? You need it 3 days, sign 3 days before you close?
Yeah, you sign the closing disclosure 3 days prior to
So,
closing.
I mean, they could have all 6 of
Yeah.
those closing on the same day.
Yeah.
So just give them some grace,
Yes.
maybe.
I love in our morning meetings when Polly will be like, yeah, we booked 6 loans this week and they're down at ops. And I think it's interesting that people don't know that we have a whole operations center where like you see our faces a lot in the banks, but then we have to send a bunch of stuff to people that do a tremendous amount of work on the back end and then send it back over here. So
there's a lot more
There's a
people than
lot.
what you see.
Yeah, there
working
is.
on your
bank.
loan.
There is.
And we thank God every day for that loan department or the operations department because whew,
And
they're
I
the
was
thankless.
I was like,
positions.
can you do this faster? And Polly's like, it takes time. Do you see this document like this? We want to make sure it's correct and
Yeah.
right, and that we don't have you at a 20% interest rate, and somebody types something incorrectly, and then you sign off on it.
Yeah. And then you're locked in, right?
Yeah.
So
I think that's a really important thing too. I want to talk about is like I've even seen just with not the bank, but different contractors or people that I've had to work on with addresses or whatever. Some things have been wrong on my documents, and not because anyone intentionally did it, but because they're humans. And so my tip to people is you need to read through stuff too and make sure, like, double check your work and sign, like, make sure it's correct, because once you sign,
Yeah.
like,
I mean, if there's
don't know.
errors in it, we can always have it re-signed if we find something when they're booking it
yeah.
on the computer.
yeah.
But we don't want that.
No.
Yeah,
we want
we
to
want
catch
it done.
everything up front.
Yeah. And I think it's good just to know what you're signing in general. Like,
Yes.
don't get into the habit of signing things because it takes time to go over.
Well, that's a good thing to talk about. So I'm signing these closing statements. So what am I signing, Polly?
You are signing your
Life away?
just about your note, your closing disclosure again, your disbursement page. You're signing a page that explains your payment on your construction loan, privacy notices, just the basic loan
Lots of stuff.
forms. Yeah, there's quite a few forms to sign.
So I know people get confused on what a note is. So
Yeah,
your
I still
note
don't
is
really
the
get it.
actual loan.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So
My
when
note.
people talk about the note, that's your loan.
Yes.
And then you said some big things. So you sign your loan document. And then the next thing was what was next?
Closing
Closing
disclosure.
disclosure.
Closing disclosure, which is what operations was working on.
Yes.
Is your closing disclosure. And that's going to have like the breakdown of all the expenses.
Correct.
So that's going to say your appraisal cost, your this, your that, your that. It's everything that you're spending money on.
Oh, and let me stop you there because I got that paperwork and I was like in tears. I'm like, what does this mean, Polly? Like, how much money am I spending right now? And she's like, hit me on the head with the paper. She's like, it's fine. Read right here. I'm like, I don't know what a balloon is. I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Yeah, our construction loans are 12-month loans.
Okay.
What we like is for the construction to be completed and us taking it to permanent financing within 12 months.
Okay.
We do have an allowable 6-month extension if it's needed.
Okay. So if construction's taking too long, they're not getting those windows in.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, we do allow for hiccups like that in the process. So, but the goal is to complete it and get it to permanent financing within 12 months.
Okay. Because construction is not permanent financing.
Correct.
So 12 months, and then you finish your, if you finish before then, what's the next step? Like, how do we roll it
We
into
start that permanent financing. You will fill out another application. We order a final inspection appraisal, updated title work, and just start with that permanent financing, whichever way is best for you. If it's a fixed rate Freddie Mac loan, or if we do an in-house,
Okay, so let's
we
talk.
check the rates.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So you have a construction loan interest rate, and then whatever the interest rate is at the time of that my permanent finance closing, then
That's when we're going to look up what your final rate will be.
yeah. So you get two rates with a conventional just mortgage. If I was going to buy a house, whatever the rate you gave me, that's all the rate. But I have to pay interest.
On the amount you use.
Yeah.
So that's another thing too with the construction loan, because you've told me this before, is when you get a construction loan, you're only paying interest on the amount you're using for construction. So say on that $100,000 house we were talking about earlier, you get 85% of that. So you could have a construction loan for $85,000. Well, what if it only takes $50,000 to build this home and you use all $50,000? You're only paying interest on that $50,000 that you use.
Right.
I feel like that's important.
Right. Yeah, it starts out low. Like your first advance might be $25,000. You're only going to pay interest on the $25,000. So as you advance more money, your interest payment will go up.
So towards the end of someone's construction loan, are they kind of paying more, like a steeper amount?
Yes, they're paying a higher interest amount, just not higher interest rate.
Right, just
Higher
because
payment.
You're paying more and more money.
Correct.
Yeah,
Do
say
you-
7% of 25,000 is less than 7% of
Yeah.
85,000.
Yeah. So do people kind of get like towards the end of their loan, like, whew?
No, they don't. I think they expect it because we try to tell them, this is what's going
Right.
to happen. So,
I think the important thing, and I've talked to some contractors about this too. Well, there's a lot I could say about this, but you will really want to have your construction people
In line, yeah.
up and going, because A, you want to get in your house, but B, I would rather build my house in 5 months than 12, because the amount of interest I'm going to be paying and not owning anything for the remainder 7 months of that.
Yeah.
That could have been a whole new cabinet set. I
Yeah,
don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Or you could have rolled it into permanent financing so much
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, so once it's done, and it has to be completely done,
Yeah.
we'll order a final inspection. If your construction loan does run over 12 months, we have to order a whole new appraisal.
So no matter what,
Really?
you're getting a new appraisal after 12 months.
After
so whether
12
you're,
months,
whether you're
yes.
rolling it into permanent financing or an extension, you're getting a new appraisal. So expect
No,
that
the
fee.
extension, you don't necessarily have to have it.
Okay.
But if your appraisal is 12 months old at final financing, you have to have a new appraisal.
Is that just because of like the market and the economy and inflation and how things
No,
change?
that's always been a rule.
Just-
With Freddie Mac, your appraisal can't be no more than 12 months old when
Okay.
you're going final financing.
Okay, Polly. So I got all that paperwork in. I got everything going. We're ready to start my loan. So
Yeah. We've closed your loan.
closed my construction loan.
With a construction loan, what we require you to do and like for you to do is open a checking account for construction purposes only, because we will put your advance money in that checking account because you will be writing the checks.
Yeah. So I had to go to the new accounts girl, Lexi, and I said, Lexi, I need a construction account. And she knew exactly what to do. So it's just like a basic
Yeah, just
my
a
FSB
basic
checking account. And I had to put $100 in there.
Yes, it takes $100 to get it open.
Yeah.
And I think that makes it so easy to track all of your construction costs too. Is that why you do it? Is be able to track it so
Yeah,
easily?
and I don't know if you want to get into this yet, but on the advances, before we will advance again, we have to have lien waivers and a construction affidavit showing what all that money went to, and lien waivers for all of that
Yes.
before another advance will be done.
So I have my construction loan open, which tells how much it'll stay on there, how much money, which my closing cost is already on there. So I opened up my bank account and I was like, Polly, really? More money? It wasn't too bad. But so I had my loan. Now I have like a little split screen and it has a loan, how much I owe, and then I have a construction account. So you get a bank account and you get a loan account. And yeah, what you just said. So Polly gave me this big folder with a bunch of stuff and had to go through it once all the stuff was finalized. And she said, okay, so this is how it works. You have these lien waivers that every time somebody does work for you, you have to have them sign off on it saying that you paid them with either your money or our money from the bank and that they actually did the work.
Yes.
That's good.
And those lien waivers protect the bank, and they also protect you from
Mm-hmm.
any mechanics liens being placed on that property.
Yeah.
So a mechanics lien is like someone could, let's say the plumber did work for me and I didn't pay him. He can put a mechanics lien on my property, and then I can't go into permanent financing or own the home until
Right.
that's paid.
Right.
So it protects both of us
It
and
does.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what we were
They're very
talking about, like the
important.
title earlier. Like that's what they're doing the research on, is to
see
find
if
if
there's
there's
any
any
liens.
liens. Yeah.
From contractors.
And that's why there's a final title work done at closing.
Okay, so then that makes sense with what you're telling me. So that first advance you do in my account, she gives me, let's say $10,000 or whatever it is. And then before I can get more money from Polly, I have to have all of those liens. So if I got my concrete guy, my blocks guy, my plumber, my excavation guy, they all have to have
Sign a lien
Sign a
waiver
lien waiver.
Yeah.
and submit it to
For
you.
payment, yeah.
and you keep those on file.
We do. And then we turn those into the title company.
Okay.
They want that. So
Mm-hmm.
we have to turn all lien waivers into them as well.
Yeah, so once again, working a lot with the bank,
Yes.
in contact with you a lot. And it's so funny. I've been filling out these lien waivers and I go sit with her, Amber, every single time. I'm like, what do I write? And they're like, Ashley, just write your name. It's not that hard.
And where do you
They're
get
not that
these
hard.
lien waivers? I don't understand. So, like, are you just printing them off the internet? Like, how are you finding these lien waivers? Like, where are they
prints 'em
coming
Yeah.
from?
I actually provide them with them.
Oh, you do.
And then if I need more, I just say, Polly, can you print me
Yeah.
off more lien
So,
waivers?
like, upon closing, maybe you provide her with
I try to
however
have
many.
lien waivers and the contractor's affidavit to
Okay.
payout letters what it is, and you fill out who you've paid.
So the lenders provide that.
Yes.
Great.
and you just
Yeah.
keep it in the green folder. I keep my green folder with my lien waivers and I call them advance papers. I've been calling them the Jill, but that's just what I fill out to get Polly money. And then my checkbook.
Yeah.
And I
cool.
I'm like, am I doing this right? It's really fun. It's really not that hard.
No, it's not. It's not.
But when
It's-
you don't know what's going on and you're spending money, like it's a little nerve wracking. So you want to make sure you're doing everything correctly.
Yeah. And then your bids that you get in, by the time you're there to purchase windows, the price could have went up.
Right.
So
Oh, Lord.
sometimes that can happen.
That's another thing, too. You want to lock in those things with
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
builders.
Yeah.
Like the price of lumber. We all know what happened a couple years ago with that. Skyrocketed, right?
Yeah, and because we had construction loans and they ended up needing more money
Yeah.
because the price of everything was going up.
Yeah. And that's another thing, too. So, say, when you decided that you wanted the full 85% of the amount of construction loan you could get, maybe take that. Might be good advice to say, take that. You don't have to use it.
Right.
But just in case you don't want to go back and ask for more money all the time.
Yeah, because it's
too.
a whole nother loan. If you
Okay.
see you don't have enough money, we're going to start another process for another loan.
And then that probably incurs some
Fees.
incurs.
Yeah.
Is that the right word? Incurs some fees.
Yes.
I don't know
Yeah,
if
there's-
occurs or incurs.
fees associated with. We'll just use a
Fees
different word.
associated.
Yeah.
I always say something so dumb on here.
So if you need more, it's a whole nother loan.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you'll do that
Yeah.
whole process again.
So you
Yes.
want to try to get all you can up front.
Yeah, so let's say the appraisal came back at $100,000 for easy numbers, and Polly's like, "Well, you say it only cost you $60,000 to build, but we can give you 85% of it. Do you just want to take the 85,000?" I'd say, "Yeah, just do it."
And that's if you own your land.
If you own your
oh,
land.
sorry.
Yeah.
And that's specific to your case, but your lender will walk you
Yeah.
through that too.
Yeah.
How much you can actually. Yeah. Okay.
So now I'm like ready to go. I'm building this house.
Yeah.
I know, it's exciting.
So tell me so how long did this process take? Like from the time you
Oh, Lord, I don't know,
applied?
2 years maybe.
No, I know. I mean the construction
No,
loan process.
Actually, that didn't take that long.
Okay,
That
so
was
you
way
applied,
quicker than I thought.
and then it took what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, maybe?
Probably 30 days.
30 days,
Yeah.
typically.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
Okay, for the whole process, for your appraisal, because that takes a lot of time in
Yeah.
itself. That's
Thankfully,
like 3 to
mine
5
came back
weeks.
in a
quick.
good amount of
Yeah.
time,
Okay.
which is good. Yeah, so I just say, listen to this, have all your ducks in a row, work with a good lender, and it's not that hard to get it started. It's just not that hard.
Yeah. So
it's
tell us
not.
what's going on with your house. Like, what are you
Okay.
broken ground? Let's get the update. What's going on with your house?
Okay, so far we've cleared my property, we've graded my property. Thank you, Dad.
So Tim McVicker went in and he leveled out your land and
He
graded
made
your
it
land.
flat,
Okay.
so my water wouldn't be falling off my
Yeah, off your roof.
countertop,
Right.
yeah.
You want your water going away from the house.
Yeah.
Not,
I
okay.
know.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I mean like everything in my house wouldn't be crooked.
Right. You
My house
level
is
it
like
out.
this.
Got
Do
it.
it DIY. So yeah, he graded my property, and so that was the first step. Excavating was the first step.
Okay.
And so he graded my property, and then the contractor, which is who frames your house, they had to come out and spray paint my property where they were going to dig my footings, which is what goes underground and is your foundation. And that was funny because now my house is small anyway, but when they spray painted it, I walked out there with my dad before we dug, and I was like almost in tears. I said, "Dad, this isn't right. This is a shoebox. I can't live here." And my dad's like, "Yeah, how many houses have you laid out, Ashley? I'm sure you know exactly." And it was really funny because I went home and I told my mom, I was like, "Yeah, it just didn't look right." And she goes, "Oh, Ashley, when we built this house," I said, "Tim, we have no room to put our children." So, and then I was talking to Amber about it, and she goes, I didn't even say anything to her, but she's like, "Now, I feel like you're the type of person that will freak out about this because I've built 2 homes." And she said, when they lay that out, buddy, you have a panic attack and you start thinking, what have I done? I'm living in a shoebox. Like, this is so small. So it looks really weird on the ground and you think you've made a mistake. But anyway, they spray paint where your house is. So they do your garage and the exterior walls. And then you dig your footing. So my dad's dug 2 feet down. We got concrete in there. Then they put your blocks on. And what else did they do?
Roughed in your plumbing.
Roughed in my plumbing.
Yeah.
And now I'm getting spray foam in my blocks to keep my feet warm. And then my dad's going to put my rock in. So then you fill over the roughed in plumbing with the rock. And then they're going to pour my slab.
Yeah.
But
So
didn't
then
you have like a termite treatment too?
Oh, I'm so sorry. You have to get termite treatment, which was another like cost. I wasn't sure. I didn't know. I
No,
had to
you
do.
had to do it, yeah.
Everyone's like, yeah, you have to get the ground sprayed. So after your blocks are laid, they spray termite. You have to call pest control and tell them to go out and spray your termite treatment. So
That's
they don't
good.
eat at everything.
Yes.
So your foundation is so important to your home.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
100%.
And I feel like it's probably been like, I don't want to say it's like the hardest part because my dad's been dealing with a lot of that because that's his job. But now I feel like it's just, it's the building part's the easiest, I think. And I was more worried about the building part. The stuff before the loan, like the property stuff,
The bids.
and the bids and all that, that was what was wearing me out. I was like, if this is this hard, I don't even know what the building phase is going to be like. It's so easy. You just got to make sure all these subcontractors are lined out and you'll just say, hey, they're pouring my slab on Saturday. Can you come next Thursday and do this? And it's just been really fun. So
Yeah.
it's really fun and I'm excited.
And now this week you're getting rock poured.
Getting my rock. Yeah, so my plumbing's roughed in. My dad's pouring my rock in there and then
Concrete.
concrete. 4 inches. Everybody's got to be 4 inches or the concrete company's going to charge you out the butt. So.
Okay. Good to know.
And they'll tell you that. They'll be like, you got to make sure that rock's up to 4 inches. So
Oh, I'm so excited for
it's
you.
interesting. Yeah. So now it's funny. I'm like friends with all these contractors and they're calling me and they're like, hey, bud. I'm like, hey, bud. I'm like wearing my blue collar.
I love it.
So it's been fun. So I'm working with subcontractors and I'm working with Polly. So you've got to have a good relationship with your banker and subcontractors. And I think just relationships are everything with it. And it's just a lot of fun. So
Yeah. Well, I'm excited
I'm
for you,
really
actually.
excited. Now I'm like, I can build anything. I've learned so much. Like, gosh.
Next step is the framing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
excited.
the house will seem bigger once your walls start going up.
Yes, that's what I've been told.
Because, yeah, that's how we were when we built ours. I was thinking, oh, my gosh, we can't live in this little house.
I know. I was like, where am I going to wash my hands? My couch I just bought was bigger than this house.
Yeah.
So it's been so funny. I had to order a porta potty too. You have to order a porta potty.
For your construction workers. Yeah.
I pulled a prank on Polly the other day. I filled out an advance form and I put like $5,000 I needed for a porta potty. And she's like, what is this? You don't need to pay $5,000 for a porta potty. I was like, I don't know. That's what they charged me. But it was just a big joke.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, if you were to give anybody advice, if they're building a new construction and they're looking to do this loan process, what would the one thing you would tell them to do be, Polly?
Get all of your bids up front. Be shopping for insurance. get your application filled out so you can just be ready to go.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned like a packet, what was that called? I'm going to link
We
it in
have
our show notes.
construction guideline for borrowers.
Okay.
And it will give you a sheet where you can state if you're going to build on blocks or if you're going to build on a slab.
And it kind of lists everything you need a bid for too,
what
right?
kind of countertops you're having. I mean, it gets down to detail, which that helps the appraiser.
Yeah. And we'll link that in the show notes so people, if they are looking to bid, they can just go check that out and see what they already need.
Yeah.
And then come talk to you about it.
Yeah, it always helps.
So after this episode will probably be, I don't know where I'll be at with my,
I mean, give it
I
3
think
more
the loss will
months.
be out.
I'll be in the dry. It's
I
called.
mean, you really could, if you think 3 months from now, 4 months from now, if we do another episode, because it was been 4 months since May when we did the last one, you could be moved in, Ashley.
You could be.
I also think a lot of this could have, now that I know what I'm doing, it could have gone a lot faster. So I will say, I got my house or my house plan in January of this year, but then I just,
Well, it's a
I
lot
just
of
waited. I didn't know what I was doing. So it was a lot of learning. Like I went through a crash course for this entire year, but now I'm starting. So I guess it's not that bad.
no.
But now I could just be like,
You ready to
Pop it
be a
out, put the
developer
blocks
now, and
down.
you're gonna.
I'm a real estate guru now. I'm coming for you. Yeah.
I love it. Well, this has been so fun. I'm excited for you, and thank you so much, Polly, for being on today.
Yes, thank you, Polly. How do they find you? What's your email and everything? Tell us. Where are you?
Yeah.
Where do you
I am
bank?
at Farmers State Bank, the East Branch that's located beside the Marion Eye Center and Rabin Tire. Email is pbenedict@myfsb.com.
And we'll have that in the show notes too. But thank you so much, Polly. This has been fun.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Polly.
It's been.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.
So, Jill, where do we go from here?
Be sure to check out our show notes for this episode, and also be sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our news.